So welcome back. If you have just joined us here, we're playing juggling acts with microphones here, so forgive us. You join us on Stotfield here for match 4 on day 1 of the Standard Bank Kearsney Easter Rugby Festival. The Green Machine of Glenwood, you can see, having kicked off this game, which is just 45 seconds old, and they're in possession from a line-out. They're up against the boys from Framesby. So two schools with a very proud rugby heritage and two physically big schools.
Absolutely, Glenwood a very young team, majority of which are in grade 11. Framesby face the usual challenges of a co-ed school. You have some years that are great in terms of depth and others not so much, but they're always a proud physical team, and we'll see how they go in the first set piece here.
So first scrum of the game, Framesby with a put-in. Andre Gerbers the scrum half. He's up against Jaden Hendrickson. That'll be a keen tussle within a match. Hernus Kutsia, as we mentioned earlier, is the man who's taking charge of this game. As the rain looks like is getting steadily heavier here. The punters on the open stand have forsaken all their stoic loyalty. They're bolting for cover. As you can see in the background, those red Perry stands are pretty slick at this stage. Real arm wrestle going on in that first scrum. And Ref Kutsia eventually awarding the free kick the way of Framesby. Tap and go from inside their own half. There's a statement of intent from the Eastern Cape boys. Ball gets carried up by Desmond Kleinboy. Still good ball for Framesby. Glenwood up quick in defence. Framesby looking for options down the left. Gerber eventually decides that the chip is good. Glenwood attacking from the consolidation. This is Dylan Pretorius at fly half, showing great composure. Penalty going the way of Framesby. Dylan Pretorius at pivot is going to be big to this Glenwood team, and as you mentioned, it's a Glenwood team in a restructuring phase, I guess.
Absolutely. The 4 of the 8 starting forwards are in grade 11. That said, they've got some genuine heart there. They've got both their second rows, who are well into the 1.9 meter mark. 8th man JJ van der Mesh is easily over 2 meters tall, and it's a phase of play that Framesby will have to be on point to compete in.
So Glenwood regathers at the end of a messy line-out, and they start rumbling. This is the Green Machine in action. They make 10 meters before they're finally pulled down. Looking for quick ball. Joe Jonas at scrum off, whipping the ball back. Ball fails to produce the required territory. Goes into line. Glenwood, again, opting to play this game fast, looking to try and run the Framesby boys off their feet. The quick taken doesn't really produce the results they were hoping for, but a great bullocking line run by JJ van der Mesh. He gets brought down, but the momentum is very definitely with Glenwood, and the penalty goes their way as well. Van der Mesh on the ground, preventing the release. So Framesby concede the penalty. And I'm pretty sure with the intent that's been displayed, they're going to be kicking for the corner. Mornay van Rensburg kicking for the corner. So Glenwood on the attack, almost exactly on the 22 of Framesby. Jacques Tyson with a put-in. Where are Glenwood going to go? They're going to go to 2. Solid-looking scrum. A solid-looking line out. Ball lands up in the hands of Pretorius. Messy. No structure, no plan. Jonker tries to tidy it up. Spreads it wide to Kele. Kele is getting bundled out into touch. Ball is still in play. Ref has adjudicated that there was the smallest of knock-ons there. Messy phase. Glenwood had an opportunity to put something really structured and threatening in place, and disappointed.
Absolutely. I think they need to just rethink their game plan, take the conditions into account. As we mentioned earlier, they're incredibly strong at the line-out. So given the conditions and their strength there, it might be an idea for them to start knocking a few balls in the corner and work it from there.
JJ van der Mesh packing down. He's already turned out to be an influential figure in this Glenwood team. Packing down in the second row. Framesby scrum. Andre Gerber with the put-in. There's a lot of testosterone in that front row at the moment, as you would expect early on. Not the biggest of front rows, and they're desperately trying to assert some early dominance. So that scrum will pack down once again. Gerber waiting patiently for the put-in. Rian van Rensburg at pivot. Signs of that Framesby scrum going backward. It's a great scrum by Glenwood. Ball carried forward by Julian Klein. And the pressure relieving kick deep down into the Glenwood half. Lands up on the fingers of Sianda Kele. He doesn't quite take it cleanly. But there's plenty of time and no pressure from the chasers for Glenwood to run it out of their 22. The Glenwood forwards piling in to make sure that that ball is secured on the ground, because there was a moment when it looked like a turnover was looming. And the greasy ball is already starting to play its part here. And the turnover goes away. Framesby, can they capitalize on it? All the Glenwood forwards are sucked into that scrum. Framesby now looking down the open side. Van Rensburg feeds Freiling. Freiling finds himself isolated. Forwards going piling in there to try and rescue the situation. Gerber once again feeds it down the blind side. There's a knock on there as well. We're going to be in for 30 minutes of greasy ball before we get to half-time and the coaches, I think.
Absolutely, and I think it's up to the fly half to dictate play here. It's Framesby have long been blessed with a steady stream of quality fly halves. One thinks of Ernst Stapelburst with the fly for Marties playing in the Varsity Cup final very soon. And for Glenwood, there seems to be a bit of a legacy here. I count at least 3 players here who are the younger brothers of former first-team starters for Glenwood.
So Glenwood put in. Joe Jonas with a put in. Ball bobbles on fingertips. Referee is going to ping Framesby for being offside. It's exactly on the halfway line. There's no doubt that the request to Morne van Rensburg is try and bang this down on the corner flag. Win as much territory as we can, see if we can set up that attacking line-out. Does a pretty good job. Line-out's going to be set up just outside the Framesby 22. Framesby have got big William Moffat there, who has a prop, is very tall, and definitely gives them a new line-out option. So Glenwood looking for fast-paced attacking options off the back of the line-out. Just doesn't come to fruition. Unable to release. Joe Jonas, again unable to release his back line. Jonas looking for that quick ball, yelling for it, does get the ball back, goes to Jonker. Jonker makes a mess of it. They've still got possession of it, but this greasy ball is turning out to be a real handful. Pretorius now trying to work his way forward. He gets bullied backwards. Jonas waiting. Jonas feeds Jonker again, who seems to be principally in that fly half slot. Kick through. This could work. It could work beautifully. It's going to be a try. Morne van Rensburg. Great feed from Jacques Conradi, and it found Morne van Rensburg in space. And there's a confidence booster, and it's also a statement that in conditions like these, you can pull off the slick handling to score spectacular tries.
Absolutely. There was a lot of static ball there, a lot of runners not really knowing what to do with the ball, and not much running onto the ball. And it took something special from Conradi to just find the gap through the defense.
So Morne van Rensburg with an attempt to convert his own try. Now, ominous signs for the Framesby team as The green machine started to purr. And as we've seen over the years, when this Glenwood team finds a rhythm, it can be a fairly intimidating prospect. Bang, straight over the middle. Morne van Rensburg converts his own try. So the opening score, the opening try, converted try. 20 minutes remaining in the first half. And time for Framesby to regroup. There's no reason for them to be despondent at this stage in the game. Rian van Rensburg at the restart. Lofts one high into the now humid atmosphere here over Stotfield. Lands up in the hands of Joe Jonas, and mistakes by Glenwood costing them dear. They managed to squirt the ball out. This might just represent an opportunity if they can keep it in hand. A breakout from Glenwood, towed ahead. They're on the halfway line. This could be anybody's ball in the greasy conditions. But some scramble defense from Framesby makes sure that it gets over the touchline. And Glenwood will have the put in just inside the Framesby half. Great intent from Glenwood. They're ready to run. They're ready to play ball.
Absolutely. Great bravery from their own line there. It's worked out well for them, but they'll definitely want to keep their handling a bit slicker in these conditions. Framesby really have to target Glenwood, who are attacking pretty tight into the breakdown. If they can play with some widths, they can definitely get around this Glenwood backline.
So Framesby in possession. Andre Gerber gets bullied off the ball. Referee adjudicates that was an illegal side entry. So reprieve for Framesby. Because little Joe Jonas, the Glenwood scrum half, is turning out to be an absolute terrier around the fringes. Rian van Rensburg bangs this one downtown. It's going to put Framesby about 5 meters outside the Glenwood 22. As the Framesby forwards walk somewhat nonchalantly down to this line out. Setting up a full line out just outside the Glenwood 22. Having just conceded that 7-pointer. Oh, and they've messed it up. It's gone too deep. Really poor. Snaffled up in the back by Dylan Kruger. Jonas once again. Glenwood looking to run it out of their half and looking to run it with intent. Kele once again looking very efficient. Jonker gets bundled towards the touchline but manages to keep it in field. Jonas once again. Jonas feeds Clark, the prop. Ball being fed now through van Rensburg's hands. Looking for space that doesn't really seem apparent on the right-hand side. Glenwood are going to have to bully their way into space if they're going to make progress down that closed side. Jonas now with a long pass. Great pass from Jonas. Skip pass. They might be creating spaces here. The offload's important. Once again, it's Clark who's handling the ball. Backs and forwards, intermingling in the back. Little chip ahead. Can this bounce kindly? Beautifully handled in the end by Hanekom. Hanekom's in trouble. He's isolated though. And eventually the ref adjudicates that Hanekom was the man who held all the rights at that stage. Great effort from the winger because they were seriously in trouble.
Absolutely, and I think the pivotal character here is Joe Jonas. He's releasing the ball from the ground incredibly quickly and just allowing Glenwood to have constant go-forward ball and put Framesby on the back foot.
So Pretoria's picking up the ball on the touchline, feeds Jonker. Jonker kicks crossfield. It's pretty much into no man's land. It's going to be an easy one for Potgieter to field. Up he goes. Looks inside, looks outside. Titlow. Ball goes to ground. Still Framesby possession. They've got it clean. Looking down the blind side. The big men driving this ball forward until they get clean possession to free the back line. Once again, Gerber springs that one loose. They carry it up through channel 1. Gerber again. Into van Rensburg's hands. Lack of plan. And they lose the momentum. They still got possession. That's the good news. Gerber once again. Great hands from van Rensburg. Picking up that one really low. And once again, it's Hanekom who's so involved in this game. Scrambling that ball down the touchline, keeping it in. It's Hanekom who picks it up and does knock it on. It's spotted by the referee. So enterprise being shown by this Framesby team. And hats off to them in the conditions. The rain has actually stopped here, but there's no doubt that the grass is greasy and the ball is going to be a little bit slippery. Really encouraging to see that both teams are not withdrawing into their shell at this stage in the game. They're ready to play ball. So Glenwood looking to assert their scrum dominance here because the early exchanges, certainly in the scrums, have gone Glenwood's way.
Absolutely, and I think Framesby will be looking to the experienced players to make a difference here. The likes of Kleinboy at 7 and Klein in the centre, experienced campaigners, big boys, and if they're going to break this Glenwood defence, they're going to have to do something different.
Glenwood have butchered it, tight head. But Joe Jonas, for some reason, has managed to combine to rescue that ball. He really is working hard. He's an absolute terrier around the fringes. So what a mess. The Glenwood recovery of the turnover has now resulted in a Framesby turnover. And down they go through the middle through Flock. Barry Flock charging on. They look down the right. Gerber. Roche van As looking like he was going to make some headway. And the ref has now decided that there are too many penalties being conceded on the ground here. So a polite word to the skipper. Dylan Kruger nods his head meekly in compliance. But a penalty to Framesby. And Rian van Rensburg is going to try and open the account for the visitors from the Eastern Cape. So van Rensburg is going to be setting this up. Do love a capital C here. Van Rensburg is going to be setting this up about 10 metres out, almost bang in front of the poles. The wind that was a factor early on today has disappeared altogether. Weather here in Kearsney is extremely variable. So van Rensburg to open the account for Hoërskool Framesby. Left boot on the small tee. Long composed setup for the kick. Left boot strikes. Looks good. Looks very good. That opens the account for Framesby. And not just for the game, for the tournament. That's a nerve settler.
Absolutely, Framesby will look to regroup from here. They've been on the cosh slightly, but they're back in the game, and a try gives them the lead. So start over from 0.
Glenwood with the kick-off. This one lofts just into the Framesby 22. Bit of confusion about who's going to take responsibility for clearing it out. Confusion results in young Andre Gerber getting scragged. Ball goes down, Framesby recovered. Goes back deep to van Rensburg. He puts it onto his left boot. Lands up comfortably in the stands. That relieves the pressure for them. Line-out's going to be set up halfway between the 10 and the 22. It's always tough to run the rule over a team this early in the season, but having said that, a lot of the schools will have played a couple of games, and a couple of quite hard games, enough to be able to get a fair read on what you can expect from them this season.
Absolutely. As much as we talk about pre-season cobwebs, we remember most of these players have played 4, if not 5 years together as combinations from under 14. So no real excuse. We do tend to see where everyone stands, but on the day, particularly in a festival against schools from other provinces, there's not much preparation you can do in terms of tactics.
18 minutes gone in the first half of this clash between Glenwood High School and Hoërskool Framesby. Glenwood put in. Jan Wolmerans to the put in. It's great take. Ball gets messily flipped out of the back of that line-out. They had it completely under control. There was just a nervy option being taken by the big lock. Glenwood trying to stabilize their possession, and they might just cough it up. They have coughed it up. Great work by the Framesby loose forwards on the ground, grinding that ball forward. There's an urgency in the Framesby team, which is going to be the key ingredient they're going to need if they're going to win this game. Down the center they go. Bullocking run from Klein. Julian Klein grinding his way over the 10. Now all the urgency and momentum is with Framesby, and it's a looped, really poor pass. Not that that's of any consequence, because the referee has seen another infringement on the ground. And Renako Brainard is staying down for Glenwood. Let's hope that's not too serious, but it's enough to earn a warning to the Framesby team from the ref. Piling in off their feet. Herinus Kutsia trying to run that fine line between asserting himself and then actually having to go to the next step, and when you've conceded too many penalties, having to resort to that nasty yellow. Ball goes soaring into the 22. It's nowhere near the touchline. Gives Framesby plenty of time to get that ball into the centre of the field and find a relieving touch. Lineup is going to be set up on the 10. You talked about early season days. Festivals like this are also a great opportunity for a coach trying to gel a new team, because you're away for a week, you travel together, you're staying in the dorm together, irrespective of what happens on the training field and on the match field. It's a really good time for teams to bond and get a bit of cohesiveness.
Absolutely, and by now they would have seen which players have real talent, but where the real test comes in is to see how they can react to pressure. And we've seen through the course of the day a few silly yellow cards, where the pressure gets to the better of players. And especially the youngsters, the guys in grade 11, you want to see who can take a real stand on a difficult day in front of a big crowd.
In front of a big crowd, and of course that introduces the N-word, nerves. We just assume that the players cannot be forgiven for making a mistake which is attributable purely to nerves. Framesby scrum. Andre Gerber feeds it. Pass behind his fly-half's head, which is going to be discussed later. And another one behind the head. This is a mess from the Framesby boys. It results in a knock-on, but 2 passes out of 3 landing up behind the recipient's head. The intent is good. They've clearly run the move on the training field. It's just, it's looking skittish.
Just the final pass just not going to hand. And Framesby, it seems, whenever they get any sort of attacking impetus, the final pass or the final movement just doesn't come off. And if those go to hand, it's quite possible for Framesby to be in the lead by now.
So this fairly intimidating looking Glenwood front row with big Jacques Tyson at hooker and Jordan Clark, who's a big guy at loose head. Big, strong looking guy. See him eyeballing his opposite number as that scrum goes down. It's time for business, Meneer. Glenwood get the put in. Joe Jonas waiting for the ball. Feeds that neatly back to Pretorius. Opportunities here. Jonker in a half gap. Feeds that one out to Tkele. Sianda Tkele looking for space. Tkele goes to Crown. Glenwood have coughed it up. So out of jail free card again for Framesby. Framesby just consolidating. Into the hands of Rian van Rensburg. He bangs it downfield. And there was pressure from the chaser. But another mistake in, I guess, what are slippery conditions. But coach would expect, certainly your key players in the back who are there in a situation like that, they are deliberately dropped back to make sure that they're there to catch the cross kick. They should pouch those.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the counter-attacking opportunity that outside backs dream of. And for Framesby, I think as much as they've got to speed the play up. Get away from the set piece, a few quick throw-ins possibly. Just don't allow this big Glenwood pack to settle.
So Andre Gerber with a put in for Framesby. Still under pressure from Glenwood. Oh, that comes out the back and Gerber misses it. Palms it desperately back to his fly half van Rensburg, who's also caught in possession. He makes a few meters before he gets brought to ground. Sets the ball up nicely. Gerber is there to try and restore some calmness to the advance of the Framesby boys. Gerber once again, this time with a box kick. Just lands it into the 22. Jonker is there. He's got plenty of time. That comes off his right boot. Slices into midfield. Opportunity for Framesby to run it up now. Hanekom feeds it in field. Into the hands of Klein, who's been strong today for Framesby. That chip kick yields nothing in terms of dividends for Framesby, and the ball finds its way into touch. 6 minutes to go to the turn, and it's Glenwood leading Framesby by 7-3. The Glenwood Green Machine, of course, with a very proud heritage. I mean, winners of the World Club Champs recently. That was a big feather in their cap, and they beat some enormously strong schools in the process. I don't think enough credence gets given to that victory, or the fact that the South African schools that represent this country at that World Schools Championships genuinely perform really, really well.
Absolutely. I don't think we give enough credit to them and the fact that they play schools from New Zealand, from some top schools from England, where the youngsters are prepared and conditioned from a young age. So as much as the tournament might be hosted in Japan and the like, I think we need to give them a bit more credits, and not to mention the number of professional players that have come through the Glenwood ranks in recent years.
So penalty to Framesby's 5 minutes left in this first half of this encounter between Glenwood and Framesby on day one of the Standard Bank Kearsney Easter Rugby Festival. Good relieving touch kick. Now that the rain has stopped, the punters have returned in small numbers to the stands on the open side. It's always a great atmosphere here. Kearsney has developed a reputation as a really desirable place to come and watch festival rugby in the true spirit. They always attract great school teams. Framesby with a tap back now. Gerber in all sorts of trouble now, unable to get his hands on that. And it's big Dylan Kruger who goes charging through on his own. One man on a mission. He's taking on the whole Framesby team on his own. And he's pulling it off, bundling the defender out towards the touchline. Touchline wins that battle. My word, Dylan Kruger's got some gas for an eighth man, and he's a big eighth man at that.
Yes, I was just about to mention actually how Andre Gerber has impressed at scrum off for Framesby, but his forwards did no favours there, like getting really loose ball. And for Glenwood, it's a counter-attacking opportunity, and from here, with a large open side, they can possibly use their fullback to cut the line, hopefully on the outside shoulder of their fly-off.
So 4 minutes of time left on the clock until the whistle sounds for half-time. Glenwood with the attacking scrum, 15 metres out, 5 metres in from the open side. Busy Joe Jonas feeds his fly-half Pretorius. Running the lines, looking for a crack to open in the defence of Framesby. Joe Jonas with the ball once again. There's nobody running into position. It lands up by accident rather than design in Van Rensburg's hands. Morne van Rensburg carries it forward. Glenwood on the attack now, putting numbers into the breakdown. Joe Jonas looking for a quick ball. Oh, their hands on that ball. Jonas does eventually get it. Feeds it to Pretorius. No real options on the outside. In fact, they're outgunned on that on the blind side. Jonas feeds it down the open side. Jonker takes it in the fly-half channel this time, spreading it wide into Conradi's hands. Conradi makes the hard yards down the middle. Ball goes down. Jonas waiting for the quick ball, and they've messed it up. The ball comes squirting out. Ugly, really ugly. Ref has adjudicated that it was a green set of hands that knocked it on as the rain comes down even harder here at Stott Field. So they're going to be conceding the scrum put in to the Framesby boys. Less than 3 minutes to go to half-time. And an injury to Michael Whittock, the flanker for Framesby. And it's one of the strategies that a coach has to adopt going into a festival like this. It's a freaky situation to play 3 hard games in 5 days. You really do have to manage your team and your entire squad to make sure you get through 3 games as best you can.
Absolutely. The days of rugby being a 15-man game are long gone, especially with this type of turnaround time between games. And I think for coaches, if any sort of player shows an injury, for them to last the entire 3 days, my thinking would be to pull them off as soon as possible.
So Framesby put in as a result of that knock-on. 4 points in it, this match is effectively level. There was a moment when Glenwood looked like they were going to front up enough to take this game away by the turn, but that really hasn't materialised. Scrum goes down. Referee Kutsia is going to order a reset of that. Clock's ticked down to minute 45. Andre Gerber, who has a chance to shine in that Framesby jersey, but has also found himself high and dry a number of occasions, having to deal with messy ball coming out at the set phase. And that Framesby scrum is clearly under pressure, and Glenwood right now would be looking final scrum of the first half almost certainly. Gerber gets it out in a fashion, gives it to the big men to carry up into the middle of the field. And that's going to set up Rian from Rensburg in the pocket. He decides to run it instead. They've got a 3-2 overlap. Can they pull something out of the bag? Chip kick is on, left, right. He comes off the left boot. One more pass is in, and it's, oh, what a try. Manufactured out of nothing. Grayson Ditlow with a score for Framesby. What a try.
Talk about soaking up pressure. Framesby running it from their own line. The length of the field. Fortune certainly favouring the Brave there. And against the run of play, you would say, probably going into the break in the lead.
I've got to say, if we were working this out phase by phase, that's somewhat against the run of play. I think Glenwood have been a better team in the first half, but Framesby have taken that chance spectacularly. A little bit of flair and creativity, and as we mentioned earlier, with that trophy from Standard Bank being there to recognise an adventurous spirit of rugby, that's it. Most coaches would never have asked their team to run a defensive ball off their own line when they were behind a beaten pack. So left boot of Rian van Rensburg to take Framesby into double figures as they go into the turn. Boom, it goes over. So Framesby are going to go into the turn. Don't want to jinx them by saying somewhat fortuitously, but by taking their chances, they take a 3-point lead as they go into the turn by 10 points to 7.
Supper time.
I thought this was a day-night game.
Nah, it's T20.
Where there's a will, there's cricket. Proud sponsor of the Proteas. Standard Bank, moving forward.
So everybody, welcome back to Stotfield. It's the second half of this encounter between Framesby and Glenwood.
I get to play on the tablet.
Glenwood had their nose in front of a match that was always going to be a relatively low-scoring affair as a result of the rain falling, and I can tell you that through the whole of half-time that steady rainfall has continued, and it's looking fairly set in at the moment. Don't be deceived by the blue sky that you might see in the background. The rain is falling fairly steadily, and it was Framesby with a breakout from their own try line in the closing minutes of that first half that earned them the 3-point lead. It'll certainly encourage them, and they will have learnt that the way to turn around this Glenwood pack and manufacture a victory is precisely that way. Look for the gaps out wide, look to capitalise on the loose ball, make that turnover count quickly. They're very fortunate to have a nippy young scrum half in Gerber who can certainly instigate that quick breakout. The ball now deep in the Glenwood half as they try to run it out. Slow ball. Glenwood decide they're going to give it to the big boys to carry. And in fact, he goes charging through the middle. Big Jacques Conradi manages to find a half gap and make a couple of hard yards, enough to turn the Framesby defence. Glenwood barging their way out. Big Werner Kutsia, the ball carrier. Things getting a little bit tetchy in the loose there. Ball going, oh, and if that had gone to hand, if that had landed up in the midst of Hanekom, he would have been home Jerome, and that would have really turned the game on its head. But it is something that's been happening consistently throughout this game.
Absolutely. We're all for running festival rugby, but the Glenwood coaching staff will have their hearts on their mouths there, seeing the no-look pass on the outside with a possible breakaway try. For Framesby, after all their defending in the first half, which will take a lot out of the players, they might have been tempted to bring a few substitutions or on the field, but a very, very young and inexperienced bench for Framesby.
So it's the Glenwood put in just outside their own 22. Joe Jonas, who's been a standout for Glenwood, looping one of those passes into his fly half's hands. Manages to get fair purchase onto that ball. It carries down to the Framesby 10. They decide to run it up. This one is also bunted high into the heavens, where the rain is now falling quite steadily, by the way. It's getting gradually harder. Great take from the Glenwood boys, rolling it forward. Potgieter, the man who's carrying it forward, back into the hands of Jonas. Jonas feeds Rian van Rensburg. He boots that one downfield just into the 22 of Framesby. They decide to run it out once again. This one comes off the side of the boot, and the ball goes directly into touch, so net gain there is going to be going the Green Machines' way. They're going to be setting up that scrum exactly on the 22. So let's see what the Glenwood boys have got planned. Jacques Tyson, the immense hooker, with that ball in hand, looks like he's ready for a quick throw-in. As they do, the forwards walking up casually. Ball goes into number 2, beautifully taken. Lunga Ngube with the ball, rumbling it up over the 22. Framesby boys getting distracted by a little bit of niggle on the side of that scrum, but it's the Green Machine that's rolling. The Green Machine is rumbling. When they start doing this, they would like it to make it count. Joe Jonas whips it out and straight through. Knife through butter. Oh, and he's going to get brought down at the last minute. Dylan Pretorius stays on his feet. To right time to Glenwood. Looked like he'd been held up there. In fact, the Framesby boys looked to have stopped his advance.
Absolutely, and I think the conditions playing into his hands there, just sliding over. Just an apology from our side. It seems like the Glenwood numbering is a bit off, and the bad news for Framesby is JJ van der Mesh seems to be on the sideline and coming on the number 5 jersey, so it could potentially go from bad to worse for the visitors.
So Glenwood edge themselves into a 12-10 lead with a conversion to come. Rain falling steadily on Stotfield now. There's a little bit of Elton Junches in this setup. Bangs it over with the right boot. Make that 14 14 to Glenwood, 12 to Framesby. So Glenwood with a slight advantage now, 5 minutes into the second half. Framesby to restart. Rian van Rensburg, it's an ugly looking kick, but it does the job. Lands up in the hands of Loubser. All Loubser can do is carry that meekly over the touchline, so Framesby are going to get to put in at the line out. As the rain falls and changes being rung. You speculated about the changes and managing the personnel. Changes coming at scrum half. Onto the field now comes Jaden Hendricks, wearing the number 9 jersey. And a raft of changes for Glenwood. And this is the test of depth and the drilling that the squad has gone through in the pre-season. Framesby, strong lines being run, but the offload wasn't there on time. Behind the passer. Frustration for the coaches. Good clean opportunity. They had go forward ball. And you see the pass not even coming within contact of the intended recipient, going way behind their head. There was absolutely no chance. In fact, that was destined always to go one place, and that was over the touchline. And afraid you can't blame the wet ball for that.
No, absolutely not. And I think for Framesby, it'll be a real test for them now with some starters running on, particularly in the inside centre berth with Conan Lafleur. He's a big boy, he's an experienced player, and he's someone who you can look to possibly break the line between the 10 and 12 channel.
The green machine rumbling forward. Jaden Hendricks has just come in at scrum half. He's taken charge. Box kick from Hendricks down the touchline. Beautifully read in the end, but he's going to have to jink his way out of trouble. Oh, that could have been a bit forward. Picked up beautifully in the end by Dylan Pretorius. He's still got it in hand and he's still on his feet. Glenwood sensed that as well. Pretorius sets that up neatly. Another box kick from Hendricks. Box kick from Hendricks. It's going to go straight into the breadbasket of Dylan Kruger, who puts it down. That had fairy tale written all over it until Dylan Kruger put that down. That was the dream box kick. If that had landed in the pouch, that would have made the highlights reel for years to come.
Absolutely, and it's a good reading of the play by the number 8. It's just unfortunate that the ball went through his hands at the last second. Would have been, as you said, the dream try for any forward. For Glenwood now, they'll probably look to take this off the top, is my guess. No. Here comes Van der Mesh.
Dylan Kruger feeds Van der Mesh. And the referee's seen the smallest of knock-ons from the Glenwood boys. I must admit, Jaden Hendricks has impressed me. Glenwood has got 2 real live wire scrum halves. I wondered about the wisdom of pulling Joe Jonas because he was turning out to be very influential. Well, they've more than substituted that with young Jaden Hendricks because he's got talent written all over him, and he's also one of those scrum halves that looks to assert himself, very vocal, takes charge of the forward pack, is not afraid to give the instructions. When you've got a general at 9 who's then able to engineer a pack that is clearly dominant, leaves your team in a very good position. And the consequence of that is when you do eventually feed your 10, he's invariably getting good go-forward ball. Glenwood looking very strong on the put-in. Hendricks peering in there to see if there's an opportunity, but the ball does come back eventually to Framesby. Framesby go down on their 22. Left boot clearance. It's not going to find touch. It's controlled in the end by Glenwood. Reinhard Jonker in a spot of bother there. And to the rescue comes Hendricks. Morne van Rensburg chipping it across field. The ball scudding into open play. Framesby able to recover. And Framesby now looking to set up the counter-attack. Ball going out into touch. AR's flag goes out on the corner. So 8.5 minutes into the half. Glenwood leading by 4.
Framesby really need to speed up the ball from the breakdown. Their best hope of getting on top of this Glenwood side is definitely through moving the ball through the hands. If they're going to play it tight and play a conservative game against this Glenwood team, they're going to play right into their hands.
So they put in from Jacques Tayson. Ball goes over the back. That's a fail. Snaffled at the back by Framesby. Framesby on the counter now. Under pressure. Ball bouncing off fingertips. Big speculative punt downfield. Taken basketball style in the air, but the ref's whistle had already gone for offside. So Framesby are going to get the penalty a metre or two inside their own half. Slightly on the open side of the field. I must say, in the conditions we're looking at here, there was a fairly good basketball take plucked out of the air. Rian van Rensburg with his left boot will be looking for a searching touch finder down the open stand. Pretty impressive job over Kele's head. Could be joining the long legacy of van Rensburgs that have played first level rugby to great success in South African provincial rugby. Framesby on the attack now. Goes over the 5. And they're going to win the technical free kick, which is a bonus because they butchered the line out. So here they are, 10 metres out, 15 in. What have the Framesby boys got in mind? Andre Gerber's got the ball in hand. There's a tap going. Desmic Kleinboy is the ball. He takes the first receiver and they spit it out the wrong end of the scrum. Turnover ball for Glenwood. Get out of jail free. Glenwood carried that back over. So it's going to be a put into Framesby 5 out. And they'll take that because they messed that up. Framesby had a great opportunity to convert that into points, and at a stage where those points would have been vital in the context of the game, and they butchered it. And always that ominous sign of a player lying flat on his back. One of the great benefits of this particular tournament is that the Kearsney Easter Rugby Festival has the benefit of the Sharks medical team and the team that run the Sharks Smart who are operating here. Any parent who's ever sat on the sideline watching a boy play rugby, their one hope is that the child doesn't get seriously injured. It's a consequence of the game we play. The only reassuring factor is that they've got arguably one of the best medical teams in the country sitting in the change room here in the pavilion at the start field. Dr. Glenn Hageman, who's a former team doctor for the Sharks, who now runs Sharks Medical, Pippa Rowe and their team do a fantastic job here, and it's very reassuring to the parents to know that you've got first-class medical backup. So put in for Framesby, 5 out after that ball being carried over by Glenwood. So from Andre Gerber's hands, looking for quick ball. Gerber's looking to blindside, changes his mind, takes it down the open side, feeds Whittock. Whittock manages to make 2 or 3 meters before he goes to ground. Gerber looking again to the open side. No progress being made by the Framesby boy. This is the third phase, and they still haven't made any progress from the 5 where they were awarded the scrum. Gerber goes for the long pass now. Feeds around van Rensburg. Van Rensburg looks for the quick offload, but he gets stifled on the ground. This could be a turnover for Glenwood. Glenwood have got the ball. Frustration for the Framesby boys. Glenwood go for the quick tap and go. Charging downfield. Looks like the big frame of Werner Kutsia. Once again, ref Ernest Kutsia is going to intervene. He's going to award the Glenwood boys the penalty. And you may or may not be able to hear from our sound effects mic, the rain is now forming a steady clatter of noise on the tin roof here at the main grandstand at the Stott Field. So conditions are not going to get any easier. And we've got a game to come after this as well. The Roy Biller from HTS Middelburg taking on Noordkaap. It's going to be the final game in a 6-match program as we have on each of the 3 days of the Kearsney Easter Rugby Festival here. So put in for Glenwood. Jacques Tayson with the put in. 4-man line out. Goes to number 2. Not the cleanest of balls. Good composure to retain that. The Glenwood forwards go bullocking forward. And the green machine is starting to rumble. Ball goes to ground. Hendricks are looking for quick ball. He's not getting it. In fact, it's almost looking like a Framesby turnover, and if it isn't a turnover, they've won the penalty. And some frustration from Jaden Hendricks. Small lecture to the referee has cost his team another 10 meters. Frustration is one thing. Letting it out on the ref, I'm afraid, is one that I suspect the coach will have a little word in his ear with later.
Absolutely, and all it's done is it turned this penalty into a kickable one. And it's given Framesby the opportunity to come within 1 point of Glenwood. One thing on the Framesby side is that as it gets more and more difficult with ball in hand due to the weather, they're going to have to play smarter rather than more expansive. And I would suggest perhaps taking the ball up a few phases down the blind side, sucking in a few defenders before playing it wide. But to still be in the game, with Glenwood being slightly dominant in the second half and definitely in the first, they'll count themselves pretty happy with that result.
So this to make it a 1-pointer. Rian van Rensburg's left boot is going to push that right of the right hand upright. He had the distance. It was a long-range kick. So the one piece of confidence that he will extract from that he's got the range on the field here at Stotfield. He's able to bunt it over from anywhere in his own half of the field. So De Wet Truta comes on as a replacement for Glenwood, and also coming on another front row. So 2 new members of the front row. Tabiso Mdleche coming on in jersey number 1. Glenwood Pack will be pleased with their dominance today, and they'll take a lot of heart from that. They'll also know that they've got the cornerstone of that scrum right. The line-out hasn't functioned 100% smoothly. Framesby with the put-in now. So Glenwood with the put-in. Reinhard Jonker trying to burrow his way. And we've got another one of the Glenwood players down in the background, getting attention from his team. And play is now getting very close to them. Glenwood medical staff actually asking for play to be stopped there. But the ball goes the other way, back into the hands of Dylan Pretorius. Dylan Pretorius gets unceremoniously bundled into the turf. Hendricks feeds into a gap. Great breakout now. Khan Lefleur running into the hands of Morne van Rensburg, and Morne van Rensburg gets a fantastic try for the Glenwood boys.
These substitutions coming off the bench for Glenwood have made all the difference there, just in that phase of play alone. Van der Mesch and Lefleur were critical to that try. Van der Mesch seems to be down another player in back play too, which would be a bit concerning for the coaching staff. But in terms of the end result, Glenwood would be happy to take the lead with the last 13 minutes to play. Glenwood now with an opportunity to bring the points difference up to 21-10. Which will be critical in terms of a potential Framesby fight back.
So Morne van Rensburg on target. Makes it a 7-pointer. And it suddenly gives Glenwood a 10-point buffer. So 12 minutes remaining in the second stanza. Glenwood now lead by 11. Good place to be in, with less than a quarter of an hour to play, and conditions certainly stacked against free open running rugby. Sianda Tkele, who's been pretty quiet in the second half after a good start. And there goes the big frame of Van der Mesch. Can't bring this man down. Does finally get brought down to terra firma. Dylan Kruger active in the play. Oh, that offload was on. Hands were looking good in the tackle. Ball is chipped in field and kept in play. Offside players recognize it, but there's a breakout opportunity for Potgieter here. Potgieter going wide, still in possession. He gets brought to ground. Can he set the ball quickly? Framesby with an opportunity now. The blindside is not on. They're outnumbered there. They're going to have to take it into open play. Rian van Rensburg. Oh, runs into the proverbial brick wall in midfield. Andre Gerber looking for opportunities. He gets caught in possession. Finds his hooker running off his shoulder. Ball goes to ground. Gerber waiting for quick ball. 2 players on the blind side. One of them is Potgieter. Potgieter feeds to Ditlow. Ditlow chips it downfield. That lands up straight into the Glenwood defender, who's gone to ground in possession. Jonker's the man who's in ground, but the referee says that's okay. First defender was on him. There was only 2 players involved over the ball there. So Hendricks waiting for the ball. Comes out the Framesby side. They're in possession. They're 20 out. Remember, Framesby trailing by 11. They're going to have to score twice if they want to try and pull this one out of the fire. Massive tackle lays down Khreiling. Gerber looking for options on his own. There's no way through this wall of green. Referees had a look at it and decided that there was a Glenwood knock on there. So Framesby are going to get it put in just outside the 22. Glenwood are looking organised in defence, and I think that's tribute to one thing and one thing only. That's structures that have been taught to them in pre-season, and any school setup that neglects that basic defensive structural training pre-season gets exposed, especially against calibers of teams like this.
Absolutely. It's a very professional setup at Glenwood. They take their rugby very seriously off the field in terms of preparation, conditioning, structures. Framesby, there's a lot of players with hands on hips and hands on knees. They're definitely starting to feel the effects of this game. If they're going to have any chance in mounting a comeback, they really need to make a few substitutions. As we see a few subs warming up on the bench here. Both sets of medical teams are on. There's a few niggles, and sense may prevail by making a few substitutions. Andre Gerber to feed the scrum. They're going to need something special from him to unlock this Glenwood defense. The partnership between him and Van Rensburg has been critical all day, and if they're going to do something special, it's going to have to happen now.
So Framesby on the attack. Khreiling, the man used as the battering ram, unable to penetrate the wall of green. Gerber spreads it wide. They've got numbers on the outside. Ball doesn't manage to get past the first receiver. Setting it up again. Gerber looking for an opportunity himself. Carries the ball well in the attack and gets the offload in. There's an urgency from this Framesby team. Khreiling with the distribution. Into the hands this time of Ricker Smith. Khreiling again. Long looping pass into the hands of Khreiling again. Khreiling feeds it outside to Ditlow. Ditlow's been looking danger in this game, but he gets dumped into the turf here on Stott Field. Penalty going the way of Framesby. Tap and go. Gerber's looking for it. He really has been a live wire for the Eastern Cape boys. He's 5 metres out, and of course now there's no scrum half, so who's going to step in? Ditlow's the man. Ball gets spread. Big players are rumbling up. They're still 5 metres out. Gerber's out the bottom. No, Ditlow takes the feed. Big rumbling drive from Klein. Klein gets to within 2 before he is upended and driven backwards by the Glenwood defence. Gerber looking left, looking right. There's nowhere to go. Eventually feeds Whittock. He gets dumped as well. All the valiant efforts of this Framesby team are coming to naught because the Glenwood defence is super impressive. Framesby now still in possession. 7th or 8th phase. Goes up to Smith. Smith's path goes awry. Smith waiting to recover, repair the damages. Reparations by the prop. Ball gets picked up and driven forward by another one of the Framesby forwards. Goes to ground. Gerber, we're looking for quick ball now. They all head out to the right. Open side opportunities. Ball gets flipped out neatly into the hands of Marais. Marais can't offload. Great intent from this Framesby team, but they're suddenly looking very thin on the ground. In the background, you'll see Rian van Rensburg has been man down for the last couple of minutes, getting attention from his medical team. Again, not good news, because Framesby would bank on van Rensburg being a common thread through their campaign here at the Kearsney Easter Rugby Festival. And he's looking fairly stationary down on the field there.
Absolutely, and as critical as he is to this team, looking at the bigger picture for the festival and for the season, it might be an idea to bring him off, especially when you see the medical team looking at his head and neck region, possible concern for a concussion. They're wisely taking him off. We see a number of Framesby substitutes warming up, possibly coming on for the last 5 minutes. And with the tired and weary legs, it's not the worst move at this stage of the game.
So Mone Potgieter is coming on in jersey 22, as quite rightly, as you pointed out, Rian van Rensburg leaves the field. Little bit of a rejigging coming to the Framesby backline. 5 minutes left to run in this game as they ring the changes here. Well, I must say I'm excited by van Rensburg. Every now and then you get a player in this tournament who, often in a losing team, stands up and just exudes potential. And Rian is one of them. He's got a long boot, marshals his backline really well. Somebody to watch out for. And having said that, this festival is well known for talent scouts. Some of them here in a formal capacity, some of them very much undercover. As the Glenwood teams attempt to break out from their own 22, loose pass coming from Kele doesn't go to hand, goes into touch instead. So in addition to the opportunity that those, I think it's 3 or 4 boys who get bursaries from the Sharks Academy get, the scouts are out in big numbers. This is Easter. There are festivals happening all the way around the country. And fair to say most of the big unions have got scouts scribbling notes into a program somewhere.
The one thing that makes Van Rensburg very attractive is that he's a left footer, and as most kickers are right footed, coaches tend to enjoy having a additional option of a left footer. It's something that Jake White always insisted on in his teams, with a 10-15 combination of one being left footed and one being right. Hence why he rejuvenates the international career of Percy Montgomery. So he's definitely got that going for him. He's an experienced player. We've seen him here in years past. But with the bigger picture, it's perhaps for the best that he's on the sideline.
So just 4 minutes left to run in this match as the rain continues to pelt down over Stott Field. Jaden Hendricks with a put-in. Solid-looking Glenwood scrum. Glenwood is certainly going to run this. Oh, it's a nice little flip move. Goes into the hands of Dylan Pretorius. But the chip has gone straight into the hands of Potgieter. Potgieter chips ahead. It's a long speculative chip. It's marked confidently. And Potgieter didn't have any support on that. It was a brave kick. He would have relied on a very fortuitous bounce at best if they'd been able to recover it at all. And he put it just a little bit too far, and Potgieter was able to get the relieving touch. More changes coming for Glenwood, as some of the big men that have done the hard yards during this game get a bit of a breather, and some of the younger players. And you mentioned that there was quite a bit of young talent in this first team squad at Glenwood. They get an opportunity to come out onto the field. Glenwood go deep. The whistle from referee Ernest Kutsia whistles once again. A technical infringement at the line out. Tap and go. Cyrus Nivout gets the move underway. Framesby, Nivout once again. Looks bright, he really does. Greta Grobler. Nivout. Feeds to Potgieter. Suddenly it looks like Framesby have got extra numbers. They've got, they're looking to that blind side, stacking them up. There's a 5-on-3 overlap on the blind side. Still the Framesby ball. They give it to Big Van Vormerans to carry up. He gets to within 5 of the 22. Now what do? They've earned the penalty. They're 5 out from the 22. They trail by 11. You've got to tap and go. Surely wisdom will say you've got to tap and go. Referee Kutsia is calling the Glenwood skipper over, who quickly acknowledges the misdemeanor and just wants the game finished. At this stage in the game, you really don't want to see a game delayed by protracted admonishment. So into touch it goes. That means that Framesby will set up for the line out 12 meters out on the open stand side of the field. Opportunity, they're not going to win it from here. They trail by 11. There's less than 2 minutes on the clock. But psychologically, if you could walk away from this game having picked up a score in the closing 2 minutes against a big team which has physically dominated you, then there are positives you can suck out of this game. So the Framesby ball is not a good one. Bobbles messy at the back, and Glenwood are going to do the covering up and cleaning up. Glenwood turnover is completed. They're taking their time, as they quite rightly can. Back to the fullback it goes. He punts that downfield. It's going to be well short of its target. Ball bounces kindly for Potgieter at the Framesby fullback. He goes down. He's isolated. Great over the ball work. Super work by Glenwood there. It's still going to come back on the Framesby side. Framesby have got another man down in open play just in the 22 of Glenwood. Less than a minute to go in the game. Framesby throwing everything into the frame to try and pick up a score in the closing couple of minutes. And another 10. And another 10-meter penalty conceded.
The result might not be an issue here, but what Glenwood really have to look at is giving away these silly penalties, especially with games to come. They may have got the better of Framesby today, but they'll be playing some stiff opposition through the remainder of this festival and this season, and they just can't give away those silly penalties.
So the tap and go is the only option for Framesby. There's seconds remaining in this game. Ball comes back to their big number 8. Grobler takes it up. Ball goes to down, sets it neatly. Quick ball into the hands of Potgieter, who's now come into that number 10 channel. Potgieter again takes it. Nivote waiting at scrum half. And that's going to be the end of the game. Referee Kutsia looks at his watch, and it's going to end up with a victory for Glenwood by 21-10. And what do we take out of that?
I think we take the bravery of Framesby. I think they seem to until the latter parts of the second half be in the game on the scoreboard. Glenwood will want to keep things a bit tighter. They do have a few potential strengths that are actually weaknesses at this stage, and unforced errors and cynical penalties is something that they can't afford to take into games to come.
So there we go. Rainy Stotfield here at Kearsney. Final game of the afternoon is coming up next. Please join us. Hartier S. Middelburg up against Noordkaap. We'll catch you then.